I really was hoping I was never going to have to make a video like this season, but here we are. My New York Knicks are in an absolute just train wreck right now. Since basically the NBA Cup championship, or most recently January, they have been arguably the worst team in the NBA, the worst team in the NBA, when this team was expected to potentially win the Eastern Conference this year with the injuries to Jason Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton. And at one point this season, this New York Knicks team was 23-9, and now they are 25-18. They are 2-9 in their last 11 games, and this team can't play a lick of defense whatsoever. And we didn't really expect them to be as good as maybe OKC, Detroit, Houston, some of these good defensive teams coming into the season. Well, they can't hit their shots either, and that's the big issue, because if you're going to be about a league average defense, you need to be a top 3, top 4 team in terms of offense to sustain that. And I don't know what happened after the NBA Cup championship. I don't know if the players got too cocky. I don't know if there was a thunderstruck that happened, but look at some of these games that they have played in leading up to the NBA Cup championship. They dropped 132 on Miami. Not a bad defensive team whatsoever. They lost to Minnesota. They had injuries in that game. They dropped 128 against Atlanta, 130 against New Orleans, 132 against San Antonio, even like 126 against Cleveland. Like, this was kind of right after the NBA Cup championship. 114 against Indiana. They lose to Philadelphia on a back-to-back after the NBA Cup championship. That was fine. And then they had some really good games in a row. They had a really large lead against the Hawks, but yeah, 5-point win against the Pelicans. You don't love that. They lose to the Spurs on New Year's Eve, in which Julian Champagnie hit like 10 threes in this game. What are you going to do? You lose 132-134. Then you lose by 12 to Atlanta. This is one of the worst performances I have seen from them all year up to this date, and it's somehow been getting worse. This team was getting blown out in the first half. They did not look like anybody wanted to be there. They all kind of looked like they were either hungover. I don't know. January 2nd, maybe they were still hungover from New Year's Eve at this point. But I felt like guys were just not getting to the right spots. It just kind of looked clunky out there. Nobody's diving for loose balls. There's no energy, intensity. And this game was at the Garden as well, and the Knicks fans are going to let you know when they're disappointed in your performance. So they lose to Atlanta, then they lose to Philadelphia, and would you watch any like film review from that game? Philadelphia is spamming the same play with Tyrese Maxey in the half court over and over again, and the Knicks could do nothing to stop them. They gave up 130 points. They scored 119 against Philadelphia, who's not like a great defense this year by any means. And then remember when I said Atlanta was probably the worst performance to date this season? I mean, I'm trying to remember if there was anything just as bad as that. I don't think so. And then the Detroit game was just like kind of a wake-up call. They lose by 31 to Detroit in Detroit. It wasn't on a back-to-back. I believe Detroit was actually on a back-to-back in this game. They did not match their athleticism whatsoever. I've talked about diving for loose balls. Detroit is getting every rebound. They're diving for every loose ball. They're fighting over every screen. New York is just getting outmatched on both ends of the floor to the Detroit Pistons, who have been the best team in the Eastern Conference this year, who should be the favorites to win the Eastern Conference this year, which is really cool to say because how bad the Pistons were 2 years ago and how probably little the fan base cared about the Pistons when they were winning 14 games and what this team was before they got Cade Cunningham. And even the year that like Monty Williams was playing Killing Hayes over Jaden Ivey, like it was dark in Detroit. And now this team is blowing out the New York Knicks by 31 points. Then they thankfully beat the LA Clippers. Oh my God, if they ended up losing that game. Then they lose to Phoenix. Then they beat Portland, which I don't know, Josh Hart returns in that game, and they were doing all this, like, kind of these losses were without Josh Hart, who was the energy guy, who was the intensity guy, who could change the momentum coming off the bench and can kind of just, like, run a fast break, get the crowd hype, and now it just feels like everybody's a little bit more motivated. They lose to Sacramento by 11. Not a good game whatsoever in this one. They end up losing by 11, in which Domantas Sabonis still wasn't out yet. They're playing Dylan Cardwell, Malik Monk, Nick Clifford, and Keon Ellis off the bench. You should not be losing to them. I know Jalen Brunson got hurt 5 minutes in. This is where he had the ankle injury, but you should not lose to this game. We watched the OKC still be serviceable, the Nuggets still be serviceable, the Celtics be serviceable, and still be a really good team without their best player. And the Kings have one of the worst offenses in the league and one of the worst defenses in the league, and you scored 101 points against them. Then you lose by 13 to Golden State. They had a great first quarter. I knew they were blowing the game. They have no Brunson. Brunson doesn't play against Phoenix. OG Anunoby shoots 35% from the field. I mean, Mikal Bridges just takes 12 shots when you need him to potentially step up as a number one option. Like, why is Miles McBride taking 6 more shots than Mikal Bridges? And then last night was pretty much the worst performance I have seen. Now, the Knicks don't particularly start hot, especially at these like 12 o'clock or anything earlier than 7 o'clock. It was a 5 p.m. start, you could see Eastern time. It was MLK, the slate, so there was a bunch of NBC games. So they started at 5 instead of like 8. Everybody's off from school, most people, or some people off from work on Monday. So they start at 5, and oh my God, this first half, they were down by almost 30 points. 30 points to a team that didn't have Anthony Davis, Kyrie Irving, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, D'Angelo Russell, Dante Exum. 7 important rotational players for the Dallas Mavericks were out in this game. They made Max Christie look like 2016 Klay Thompson. He goes 9 of 13 from the field, 8 of 10 from 3. Najee Marshall didn't shoot the best, but he's just looking like he cares so much more than everybody else on the Knicks basketball court right now. So that's kind of how we got to this point right now where I want to make this video and I want to talk about this Knicks team who has been just very disappointing as of late. Now, they're still the 3 seed. They're lucky that the Eastern Conference, I don't want to say it sucks because there's still competitive teams here, but if they were in the Western Conference, like, they're kind of in the play-in tournament conversation. Right now, the Knicks are only a few games above the play-in tournament, but now there's a 5.5 game gap between Detroit and New York from the 1 seed. Boston does have them by about a game and a half right now as well. Toronto only have a game behind them. Philly's right there. Orlando's right there. Cleveland's right there as well. Now, I know all these teams have kind of had their issues this year. Orlando, Cleveland have been disappointing in some ways. Toronto's had some injuries this year. Philadelphia is still kind of figuring out its identity, and Embiid's look great as of late. I'm not taking the Knicks seriously until I see a stretch. Last year, at one point, I wanted to make a video like this. I was very disappointed when they couldn't beat OKC. They couldn't beat Boston. They couldn't beat Cleveland throughout the regular season, and they ended up beating Boston in the playoffs. Now, it wasn't a confident series victory. Like, that game 4 in which Tatum got hurt was their best game by far in that series up until Tatum got hurt. Because the first 2 games, I don't know if they win those 2 games again. Like, Boston could not hit a 3 in the second half. And it felt like Boston blew those games more than the Knicks won those games. I wasn't complaining as a Knicks fan. I was like, how the hell are we up 2-0 right now? But it didn't feel like we were still the better team at the end of the day. They're still the 5th ranked offensive team. They're the 18th ranked defensive team over the year, but I'll pull up the numbers over the last few weeks. It's not that pretty. They're 9th in net rating. 9th in net rating. And there's like a stat that goes around too, that if you're going to win an NBA title, you need to win your 40th game before you lose your 20th game. And the Knicks were on pace when they were 23-9, it was looking pretty good. Now they're 25-18. So if they want to hit that feat, that it's just like an arbitrary number, but it does go back in history where I think the last time a team that won it all that lost its 20th game before it won its 40th game was like 40 years ago. So they essentially have to go like 15-1 to hit that. That's just not happening with this team right now. And if you kind of look at the schedule coming up for this roster over the next few weeks as well, like they play Brooklyn. If they lose this game against Brooklyn at home on Wednesday, I'm going to lose my mind. Now, I will say the schedule was not kind to them after winning the NBA Cup championship. It sucks that you don't get a win for winning the NBA Cup. Why? I don't know. And then they end up winning the NBA Cup earlier here. It was like on this Tuesday. So I guess that was the 16th. They got to play 2 days later, and then they got to play it back-to-back immediately. And they never had 2 days off for a while. Like they played 1 day rest, 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 1 day rest here, back-to-back here, 1 day, 1 day, 1 day. So actually, the 14th, when they played Sacramento, was the first time they had 2 days off. I'm pretty sure, if I'm looking at this correctly, in a while, which is pretty brutal, not gonna lie. I'm not gonna say that's a total excuse, but the schedule has not been on their side, and then Brunson gets hurt. But this team was fully healthy against Dallas, and they get embarrassed by a team that's probably trying to tank right now in its own right. So they need, like, the schedule's not that tough on paper. I'm not sure if Jokic is going to be back on February 4th. He could not be. Then it gets a little bit more challenging, but they should be able to beat Brooklyn, right? It's the Brooklyn Nets, another team that's not really trying to win games right now. They play Philly this Saturday. Hey, what did I say about the day games? This is rivalry week. We'll see what ends up happening. They got Sacramento Tuesday night. Like, they should win at the Garden. They could beat Toronto. They could beat Portland. They could beat the Lakers. They could beat the Wizards. They could beat the Nuggets without Jokic. They're probably not winning these games. Detroit, Boston on the road back-to-back. I mean, you split them, I'll be happy. But at this rate, I can't take the Knicks seriously as a title contender. I mean, I'll just look at January here compared to the last 15 games in which they pretty much looked like over, I guess, yeah, the last 20 days. They're third worst net rating. Utah, Washington are behind them. Brooklyn has a better net rating than the New York Knicks in the month of January. They're 2-8. That is so bad. Like, their offensive rating does not justify their horrible defensive rating. They're actually, oh my God, they're 4th worst in offensive rating. I didn't even realize it got that bad. Oh my God, are fifth worst in offensive rating, and their defense fourth. The Knicks have been a bottom five team for like 3 weeks now. Oh my God, it's so frustrating. And now we can kind of just talk about the players themselves, because this roster doesn't look too different from last year's roster. Like, off the top of my head, you're missing like Precious Achua, you're missing Campaign, DeLon Wright. That's kind of it that was playing like notable minutes for you down the stretch towards the end of the season. Yeah. So the 2026 Knicks add Gershon Yabusele. That has been an F signing so far. I don't know who that comes down on. Maybe it should probably come down on Leon Rose. I don't know if they're going to be able to move his contract at one point at the deadline. Jordan Clarkson has been fine, but you know what limitations Jordan Clarkson has as like an overall player, as a defender going forward. So yeah, the guys are playing less minutes per game this year, which has been a positive, I would say, in trying to keep them fresh. Landry Shamet ends up getting hurt, but like, the bench has been one really bad, and then I'll get into the starters. Like, it's been a little bit of Tyler Kolek here and there. There was a nice Mo Diawara game against, forget who he's against, but then he just doesn't play anymore in the rotation. I don't know what's going on with Mike Brown and Mo Diawara. Kevin McCullough had a good game against the Hawks, not really getting consistent playing time. Hart didn't play in that game, but this team also lacks like that Najee Marshall, that athletic wing defender off the bench. So I think Brunson has been fine this year. Obviously, the ankle injuries, once again, have been kind of persistent with him, which has been a thing over the last like 2 or so years. Cat has frustrated me a decent amount this year, and I'm not saying that I should have as high expectations for Cat as I do for Brunson, but when Karl-Anthony Towns is making up 34% of our cap space, when I didn't love the trade when it happened. I didn't like the trade, actually, when it happened, when you traded away Randall, a first, and DiVincenzo for Cat. I know they needed a center. I thought it was a little bit too reactionary at the time, but yeah, I was not a fan of it. Cat, I mean, they go to the conference finals last year, so I can't complain, but when Brunson is your highest paid player, which I think is fine. I still think you can win a title with Brunson as your best player. I do. Cat can't be your second best player with his defensive limitations. We saw Minnesota kind of go from Cat to Gobert, and they value his defensive ability behind him. You see Chet behind Shea. I mean, in Boston, like, Tatum was a fine enough, like, good enough number one defender, so that really wasn't an issue there. But you had like Kristaps Porzingis and Drew Holiday and good defenders behind him. Cade Cunningham's got great defenders around him, although Cade is a pretty good defender. So you kind of, I mean, even in Houston, right? Like, you have Kevin Durant, but you have good defenders around Kevin Durant. San Antonio, their number one guy, is obviously a great defender. So you can't, I don't think, have Cat and Brunson. It's really tough, because I know, like, Randall was not a great defender, but Randall played harder than Karl-Anthony Towns. He played more physical. He would, I think, be a better rebounder as well. And I think that's what they valued. Mikal Bridges, I want to be positive with Mikal, and you can look, 50% from the field, 40% from three. He's getting to the free throw line 1.1 times a night. Mikal Bridges is going to be making $33 million next year. He's going to have a $41 million player option in 2030. He needs to be more aggressive. I don't know what Mike Brown needs to install in Mikal Bridges' mind, but I need him to be more aggressive as an offensive player. You were way too talented with your frame and your just high point of release that you are basically unblockable most of the time, where not every shot needs to be like, I'm scared to attack the rim, it's a fadeaway every single time, or I'm going to pass out of it. OG has been pretty disappointing as of late as well, and OG is making a lot of money now. OG, he's making a lot of money, but he's getting paid for his defense. It's crazy that the Knicks got blessed with this Brunson contract, where he's making 22% of their cap space. It's eventually going to be like 23% of the cap space in 28. I'm assuming he'll opt out, and I don't even know what we're going to talk about there. Josh Hart is fine. Obviously has his limitations as an offensive player as well, but he does provide a lot of value to this team going forward. He's got $20 million and then a team option for 2028. The one thing about the Knicks too, Mitchell Robinson's a free agent at the end of the year. I don't know if Mitchell Robinson likes playing for the New York Knicks. I really don't, but he does have a ton of value out there as well. The one thing I'm scared of, you can see this number right here. They're $148,000 below the second apron. So that, you're right there. So if Mitchell Robinson wants a raise on $12.9 million, you're going into the second apron. Can you justify being in the second apron for a year? Yes. But does it limit you elsewhere? Yes. And when you have a deep team like OKC or even like Cleveland to an extent, you can stomach that. Like, Cleveland has its issues this year, maybe more at the top, but like, I don't mind Cleveland's bench when they're fully healthy with Strus and Merrill and the top four guys are all healthy. They're definitely deeper than the Knicks going forward. But when you're looking at like Gershon Yabusele, who's kind of unplayable right now. Miles McBride, good. Never took the leap, but it's like this contract is unreal bargain-wise. You whiffed on Pacomi Dadie. You could have taken Ryan Dunn. You could have taken AJ Mitchell. I know it's hindsight's 2020, but I don't know why you took the biggest project, maybe outside of AJ Johnson, in the first round when you had this window going forward. I mean, Keyshawn George was right there as well. Hindsight's 2020. They could have taken Dylan Jones. Yes, they could have taken Baylor Shireman. Isaiah Collier was there. Kyle Filipowski was there as well. Heck, Terrence Shannon Jr. has issues in Minnesota. I'd rather have him right now than Pacomi Dadie, who they're not going to play going forward. So they're relying on Hoop Porty, who was like Mr. Relevant from the 2024 draft. Mohamed Diawara, also like fun player, but his years away as well, when they could have taken Kobe Sanders. If you watched my draft stream, I was so happy they took Kobe Sanders out of Nevada, but then they ended up just trading it to the Clippers to take Mo Diawara when he would just help them out so much more. Right now, they traded 4 second-rounders to get Tyler Kolek, who I like, but can you ever really play Kolek with Brunson out there at the same time? It's tough. Kolek and McBride out there at the same time, it's tough because of the size issues there going forward. So if Mitchell Robinson leaves and you don't trade him, who's your backup center next year? Is it Ariel Hukporty? It's going to be another veteran minimum out there, most likely. Thankfully, the Knicks do own their first round pick in this year's draft, which I hope it's picking at 30. I hope it's picking at 30, but right now it's at 21. And I haven't really seen the Knicks hit on a draft pick in some time. Like Kolek and Hukporty are fine draft picks, but this team most likely hasn't hit on a first round pick since Quentin Grimes in the 2021 draft. And they traded Quentin Grimes for Bojan Bogdanovic, which didn't work out, and Bojan gets hurt in the playoffs, and Grimes, I'd rather have him in the year 2026 under the contract he's on right now and what he did for like Philadelphia last year and what he showed for Dallas as well. And then they used that Bojan Bogdanovic contract to go out with 6 first-round picks for Mikal Bridges. I love the idea of Mikal Bridges with Dante DiVincenzo, Hart, Brunson, Randall. You were hoping to bring back Hartenstein and Anunoby, but 6 first-round picks, you had to draw a line. You just had to say, you know what? Brooklyn doesn't want to trade him to us. Let's not overpay. They overpaid. I thought it was a championship move. When they traded for Bridges, they still thought there was a chance they could get Hartenstein. Him leaving really did mess things up for the Knicks because there was a max on what they can give him. They had to extend Anunoby, and then Mitchell Robinson gets injured in the offseason, or he gets injured against Philadelphia. So he was going to miss like 75% of the 2025 season last year. So they panicked and traded for Cat, which, I don't know, has its limitations. Like, this Cat contract is not fun to look at. It's just not. $61 million player option in 2028. There's been rumors that they might trade Cat. There was I think New York Times, actually not New York Times. There was a Newsday or something article by Steve Popper that they could trade him to Memphis, Charlotte, Orlando. I don't think they should do that, honestly. I would look to trade Mitchell Robinson. It hurts you 100% for the playoffs, but they can't get nothing in return for him in the offseason when you're this close to the second apron. They just can't operate that way whatsoever. You have the Bridges contract ascending up $9 million next year. Like, Brunson goes up, and Anunoby goes up, Cat goes up $4 million as well. Yeah, this team is going to have a lot more to work with, or a lot less to work with next year going forward. Like, thankfully, McBride goes down. They literally might have to like non-tender Pacomi Dadie's third-year option and then salary dump him in a way. It's not a great time to be looking at the Knicks. They're going to have to figure something out internally, personnel-wise, going forward. Because, yeah, it's been a disastrous 3 weeks. Like, championship teams don't have these stretches. So now in my mind, I'm like, all right, you're probably not winning the NBA Finals, but can you salvage this enough where you can at least run it back to the conference finals, right? Is something going to change internally? Right now, it's Boston and Detroit. Then it's the Knicks. I have no idea if Jason Tatum's returning. I still think Detroit's the best team in the East. I think the Knicks could beat those teams in a 7-game series. It's not like I'm looking at those teams like I was looking at the 2024 Celtics or the 2025 Thunder, where it's like, good luck. Like, there is a chance. You're not going to be favorites, but the Knicks weren't favorites against Boston last year. So we'll see what changes. Would love to know what you guys think. Obviously, I'm a little bit more, I guess, biased and personable and a little bit more emotional when I'm talking about the Knicks because they are my favorite team. I just want to see them win an NBA title, and then I never probably have to care about them as much again. I will always care about them, but if I could just see them win a title in my lifetime, I'm good. Just one, please, just one. So I hope you guys did enjoy. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.